Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Chasing Poker Greatness. In the den of greatness, Coach Brad and his lieutenants have raised the CPG Wolves. Now, trained and loose in the wild, they'll determine their own fate. Out to prove that they're the predators and not the prey.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of CPG.com. Actually, not CPG.com, ChasingPokerGreatness.com. I'm not sure what CPG.com actually is. Don't go there. You've been warned. John, welcome to the show. It's not Tactical Tuesday, but it's another kind of day. What are we hopping into today?
Thought it was about time that we give everybody a update on how the Wolves program has been going. Our last video kind of detailed how we struggled with, kind of poor results with the Wolves. But I think one thing that was looking good at the end of the last video was that the strats were working well for me and Shu. So I think we were confident that the strats themselves work really well, but we just had a lot of improving to do as like teachers and coaches, and just kind of understanding how to teach these strats to the Wolves in a better manner.
Apparently, it's a project that takes more than 1 month to master. Who would have ever thought that figuring out where all the buttons were and leading folks and creating a poker factory that churns out crushers was actually going to take a lot of energy, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and time. But maybe that's just like how these giant projects need to go. You just need to be like ignorant, so ignorant that you get started, and then once you got started, you're kind of like, well, there's no turning back now. Like we're already too far in, so we got to keep moving forward. Which kind of falls in line with the podcast and the village and the courses and pretty much any project that I have ever undertaken in my life. So yeah, I guess that's maybe a theme. I'm just very ignorant, and then once I get my teeth into something, I tend to not let go.
Yeah, you're too stubborn to quit.
Yeah, pretty much. It's sunk cost fallacy. Like that's all it is. It's like I'm a big believer in sunk cost as it relates to my stuff.
Well, I mean, with Wolves at least, I think it's turning out okay, and hopefully in the next couple slides we'll be able to show everybody that your stubbornness is paid off.
I mean, I would say that like with the podcast, with the village, with courses, with coaching, I think everything has paid off. These things take time, and I think we just overestimate how much we can get done in a short amount of time.
Yeah. And
the reality is like we're not superhuman. We just have to keep working and grinding, which is exactly what, I've been doing specifically over the past 6 or 7 months. You and Shu have been in there battling. You've also been on the felt battling at the same time. My whole existence has been how do I maximize? How do I fulfill my end of the bargain here as it relates to a coaching for profit by making sure that our success rate is as high as humanly possible.
Yeah. You've definitely been way more focused on Wolves than Shu and I have, mostly because, like you said, we've also been trying to use the strats in real life and test them out in the streets.
Yeah, you guys have been printing. Like you guys are just
out there living the easy life.
Out there crushing. I've been envious of both of you many times. Just like, oh my God, like these guys are fucking killing it, and like I'm just in here buried. But now the fruit is blossoming, which is nice. So let's get into this Wolves update without any further ado.
So I just wanted to start with a quick refresher for what Wolves is, in case this is someone's first time hearing about Wolves or clicking on the Chasing Poker Greatness channel on YouTube. So
Yeah.
Wolves is Chasing Poker Greatness is cash game coaching for profits program, or CFP for short. A CFP is basically an arrangement between a student and a coach, where instead of paying an hourly rate, the student pays a percentage of their profits in exchange for coaching. I think it's just a really good way to align everyone's incentives. What makes the Wolves CFP unique and different from most other CFPs is that the poker strategies that we create and teach are based on mass data analysis. Essentially, the question that we're trying to answer is, what is your pool actually doing? Not what, not how do people play poker in theory, and then take what your pool is actually doing, the population tendencies, create, the highest EV responses that we can, or the highest EV actions that we can based on population tendencies. Teach them to,
yeah, like this falls in line with like what I've been saying on the podcast for years now, ever since the genesis of like, you play poker against people and people are predictable. And that's just the reality of the world that we live in. And so like, when you're playing poker against people, you're not playing against a robot, you're not playing against a machine, you're not playing against Pio Solver, you're playing against a human being with emotions. And people just tend to be predictable by nature.
Yep.
And so it just makes all the sense in the world to me to, look at data and figure out like, oh, how are people playing these spots? And then what should the appropriate counter be? And then, we also inject theory into the equation as well, because you have to, like, even building out strats based on data is still creating poker theory. So yeah, that's really the only path that's ever made any sense to me. It's like, if you're going to figure out how to maximize, if you're going to create a factory that churns out crushers, well, we need to understand what people are doing so that we can build strategies around that instead of like what nobody will ever do, which is what the output of a solve is.
Yeah, right. Nobody. There's no pool that check raises 15% versus like a range C bet in a single raise pot. That just, I don't think we're ever going to see that, at least at, low and mid stakes online. So what are you really solving for if that's what your solver is assuming?
Yeah. I mean, change, like node lock some early decision tree actions in a solver and see how the output changes. Yeah. And then ask yourself like, should I be actually doing what is suggested here when the reality is like the frequencies are just out of whack?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the third bullet on this slide is kind of going into how and when do we teach these mass database strats.
Every day.
Yeah. Well, okay. We'll go through the formal teaching time first. So there's 1 2-hour weekly group coaching session. This is a session where all 3 coaches, me, Brad, and Shu, are on a call with every single wolf at the same time. We kind of use this for slightly more like macro strategy management. So if we implemented a new strat a couple weeks ago, we'll go through hand histories to see how the strat is performing. If the 3 coaches have developed or come up with a new strat, we'll spend that time kind of teaching it and helping the wolves understand kind of the ins and outs of whatever new strategy we're teaching. On top of weekly group coaching, there's a weekly group hand history review session called Wolves PPH. That's an hour of just bring in any hand that you had questions about, any trouble spots.
It could be thematic too, depending on like what we studied that week. Like if we studied a specific thing, then it's bring hands related to that specific spot so that we can talk about it, ask questions, and identify coaching blind spots, right? Because you can't, I'm resigned to the fact that you can't see every angle. You can't think about every single thing. You can't ask every single question that there is to ask. And so like having a bunch of different eyes who are looking at things and seeing the angles and asking questions allow us to, better build out strategies for the future, and really allow us to reflect on what we've made and maybe change things if such is necessary. But I think that's just part of the process.
Yeah, and I think it's now that Wolves has grown a little bit, it's been really fun kind of going through that process with a group of really smart, good poker players that are kind of like trying to ask questions that sort of poke holes at the strats that we make, right? And
Yeah, of course.
and the better. And yeah, I
You,
think
you
that
have to.
I think it's just been a really, I don't know, at least personally, that's been one of my favorite experiences in Wolves is kind of that back and forth in PPH or group coaching.
I mean, I'm as a human, like I don't want to be dogmatic about anything. I don't want to be religious about any single strategy, any single thing that we do or that we teach. Everything is up for investigation. Everything is up for being upgraded. And I think again that's another thing that I've carried with me as a poker player is like I'm not going to stick with anything. I'm going to always question things, always look to see if there's a better way. And, you know, we have lots of tools these days that can shine lights on whether or not there are better ways and that's pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah. And in addition to the two kind of group coaching settings, the Wolves are kind of on a rotational schedule for one-on-one coaching with you, Brad. Do you want to kind of just touch on what you guys go over in one-on-one coaching that's a little bit different from the stuff that we talk about in group coaching?
It just depends. I mean, it's more personalized,
Yeah.
more targeted towards each individual wolf, even though like there are protocols kind of across the board for what to do in various situations. I think that each individual wolf struggles in different areas. They have questions about different areas. And so like it just, from a one-to-one coaching perspective, I've always said that like you need to understand many different paradigms that the students come from so that you can communicate with them from however they're viewing poker. And I think that even amongst the Wolves, they think about things differently. They struggle in different areas. They have different strengths. Some of them, you know, are more innovative, right? They want to test and try different strategies out that may be good and they may be terrible. And like, so private coaching, again, helps to see like, oh yeah, this is really good. Like, or no, this is terrible. Please never do this again. And I'll show you exactly why it's losing money. So it's just personalized attention, targeted focus to each individual player. Sometimes it's performance based, right? Sometimes it's life based, schedule based, just, you know, identifying problems and solving problems, which is what I spend most of my waking life doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to have a community to do that with. And that's sort of kind of the next point.
Yeah.
I think that's really what Wolves is trending towards. I think it's not just like it doesn't feel like, oh, the CFP or like this coaching student relationship as much as it did kind of early on, or maybe as much as I expected it to early on. And it really just feels like community is like the best word I can think for it. And right now it's pretty small. We only have 13 active Wolves and there's 3 coaches. So like the, you know, kind of coach to student ratio is really good. And like pretty much if anybody needs, you know, hands-on attention, I would say that there's going to be at least one coach available like in 24 hours to provide whatever feedback or whatever help you know, a wolf wants or needs. Sometimes it's like, hey, can you like go over a session with me and we'll just look at hand histories for a whole session. And, you know, sometimes it's just telling them to keep doing what they're doing, or sometimes it's fixing leaks. But yeah, this happens all the time. The Slack channel where the Wolves and the coaches are is just like, it's nonstop hand histories, questions, Zoom links for session reviews. Yeah, it's just it's like an energizing place to be, because like you can just tell that everyone's working, everyone's trying to get better, just around the clock all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the prerequisites to getting accepted into Wolves is that we need to like you. And I would say that for all of the Wolves, like, I actually love all of them. I root for them as human beings, as people. I root for their personal lives. I root for whatever they're tackling outside.
You went on a retreat
cards
with a bunch of them recently, right? And
yeah. I mean, it's you know, like I invest most of my energy into the program, right? Like the listener has probably recognized there haven't been as many interview style podcasts that have been dropped, and it's because this is where I'm putting all of my energy into the CPG Wolves program. And I love all these guys and I want the success rate to be as high as possible. And like, I don't want people to drop out. I don't want people to fail. I don't want people, they're going to struggle. There's going to be pain and suffering. This is poker. We can't like dress it up as something that it's not.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. You're going to suffer. You're going to get whacked. And that's just the nature of the game. But making sure that they're okay, right? Like giving them comfort, or reviewing their database, reviewing their hands, and letting them know like you're on the right path. You're making the right decisions. Everything will work out in the end. It's my favorite part of the program, is just interacting with people that I enjoy interacting with all the time. It's given me a lot of fulfillment and joy in my day-to-day life. And I don't think it was fully anticipated that I would enjoy it as much as I do, but I just do.
Yeah, I couldn't have anticipated how much I love this community too. I mean, it's just I love talking about poker and thinking about poker, and now there are 13 Wolves and 2 other coaches that I can do that with pretty much whenever I want.
Yeah, you're not a very touchy-feely type person, so I can see how you wouldn't anticipate loving the community so much.
Like I just get the itch sometimes to read a hand history, and I'm like, I can just open up Slack and like get my fix whenever I want. So the last thing about community, this hasn't happened yet, but is in the works. Performance coaching. This is kind of a new addition to the strategic stuff that we've been hammering since the beginning of Wolves. You want to just briefly talk about what type of performance coaching you have lined up for us, and what you envision for the future for performance coaching?
I've brought on my good friend Adam Creek, the Olympic gold medalist, and he's going to basically lead some performance workshops over the course of the next year and hopefully for many years to come. And I think that, you have to, the first thing is making sure that the hands that you play are high quality. The hands that you play are making money. The decisions that you're making are good. Your factory is firing on all cylinders and it's producing really high quality products, right? And then after that, it moves to performance. Like, how do we make as many products as we possibly can? How do we live a balanced life? How do we upgrade sleep? How do we upgrade personal relationships? How do we upgrade social life? Like all of these different areas that surround poker but are not poker, but have a giant impact into how well you're able to play the game. I think it's just like of the utmost importance, and it's always been in the plans to have a performance side, and there are many more future plans that I have, but yeah, you just have to take things one step at a time. And the first step was putting people in a position to where they're going to be successful and they're finding success, and then from there, looking at the performance side, looking at mental game side, looking at other projects that Wolves may participate in, giving them opportunities. Just all of these things are downstream, but the first thing, the first domino is making sure guys are in a position to make money and do well and have a lot of confidence whenever they sit down and play their sessions.
Yeah. I think that progression makes perfect sense. I mean, you have to know the strats, and you have to be able to execute, the strategies almost perfectly. And once you can do that, though, like the highest EV thing that you can do to kind of make more money or be a better poker player is start tweaking the other aspects of your life. Because, once you know the strats and you're executing them well, like the things that start mattering are, how well are you eating? How much sleep are you getting? You have good personal relationships with your friends or your significant other or family and stuff like that. And yeah, just having essentially like as good of a mental game and kind of physical game as you possibly can.
Yeah. I mean, it's lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you can
do the
little recap. Yeah.
So Wolf started summer 2021 last year. Brad and Shu started working on MDA strategies. I joined sometime in the fall, a couple months later. In the winter of 2021, December, CPG Wolves officially launched with 5 contracted players. As people who watched the previous video will remember, things didn't go so well out the gate. The strats were working well, great for me and Shu, but we had a lot to learn in terms of teaching the strats and helping others understand the strats. The early returns were not good. The results were negative. We had 2 Wolves drop out which was pretty devastating. And then spring came around, and I don't know, maybe we just had to get out of winter or something. But
Winter
everything started turning
unfortunately
around.
froze a couple pups to death.
Yeah.
Out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's a matter of learning. It's a matter of progression. It's a matter of communication. It's a matter of teaching. It's a matter of anticipating potential problems that you didn't see coming, right? That may not even be related to whether or not a wolf is having a lot of success or not, right? Like that was very big surprise, is that like one of the pups that froze to death in the wilderness was actually very, very successful in the beginning. And there were just problems that I didn't anticipate, that I didn't have visibility of in time, which caused me to upgrade my protocols and make sure that like whenever I see that somebody's struggling mentally, whenever they're on a bad run, they string together 4 or 5 losing sessions in a row, right? Or even one session where they get obliterated, that I communicate to them directly. I ask them how they're feeling. I ask them if they want to review their hands. Because people need support. You need support when you play this game, because like it's a very brutal thing. And like, yeah, so anytime that somebody's struggling, I'm reaching out directly. We have protocols in place that, somebody loses 5 buy-ins, they have to review every hand that's more than 10 big blinds in the Wolf channel on Zoom, just to see what's going on, to see if there was anything they could have done differently, or to see if they just played well, and then get feedback that like, no, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's just variance was not on your side. And so keep pushing forward, right? So, it's a matter, like, there's growth and there's progression here from the coaches, from everyone. And I don't mind making mistakes. I just don't want to make the same mistakes multiple times. And so like, as each month passes, there's more and more protocols, more and more failure points that I identify, and then take steps to remedy them so that future wolves won't fall through the cracks.
Yeah. I mean, that was just so much stuff happened, and so much learning happened on both sides at the end of the winter and early spring. But we're here now, summer 2022. We got 13 active wolves taking applications every day. We got wolves playing 6 max online, full ring online. We even have one wolf playing live cash. The recent results have been, I mean, honestly, really impressive. It's not just the turnaround. I mean, the 6.5 BBs in the last 250K hands, 9 BBs per 100 in the last 80,000 hands. Every wolf is winning, like we said in the last slide. So it's no surprise that we've got a handful of wolves that are taking shots at higher stakes. That's probably just going to be the case going forward. Like, we'll just always probably have a handful of people shot taking and trying to move up.
That's the ideal, right? Like, get up, move up stakes, crush the stake you're at, move up, get support, get feedback, keep battling. I mean, 6.5 big blinds per 100 over the last 250K hands couldn't make me happier. I mean, it is like, it's been it feels like a long battle, even though it's only been about 9 months, but a lot of hard work, a lot of weekly hours, blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into achieving this win rate. And my end goal is to have a 1 million hand data set of 10 BBs per 100. Like, that's my personal goal. It's, in my opinion, a pretty bold and audacious goal, but it's a target to shoot at. And I mean, we're 9 months in, we're at 6.5 big blinds, so I think it's achievable. Exceptionally difficult, but achievable. I mean, you and Chu are above 10 BBs per 100 right now. I think both of you are in your respective stakes. So it's a thing that can be done. And it's always fun to have big goals.
Yeah. Honestly, like, just screw the people who say like poker's dead or online poker is impossible, or like, just, it's, incredibly tough. Like, there's still tons of room to make money, mid stakes, high stakes online. So we're just proving it here.
Yeah, look, I've learned to just drown out like the noise. Like, I just don't. There's so much that's said. Like, I posted Chu's graph on Twitter, and like people are like, this Fugazi graph, it's doctored. And to me, like, what higher compliment can somebody give you, right? Than say that like this freaking ridiculous graph that's like 11 plus BBs per 100 at 500 through 2K no limit is fake.
I'm winning so much money, people don't believe it.
Yeah, right. Like that to me is like the highest compliment that somebody can receive. And I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to put my head down and we're going to get there. And I know that it's achievable. And so that's what we're going to do. And I don't care about the outside noise saying that something is like impossible. Because I know the reality. Like I've seen the reality and we're going to get there.
Yeah. No doubt. Let's give the fun stuff, the graphs. I'm sure this is what everyone was waiting for. Maybe we should have mentioned it at the beginning to keep people to the end of the video.
Nah, I think they'll make it this far. So we have this graph, and we have to remember that, like, for the podcast listener, they can't see the graph. They're beautiful though. They're very beautiful. So you can check it out on youtube.com/chasingpokergreatness from the podcast. But this first graph is 50K hand sample, 6.3 BBs per 100 at 200 NL, playing 6 max. Looks like they're running 20 buy-ins or so below EV.
I know.
But I don't. It is what it is. Then we have this graph with the red line killer winning 9.8 big blinds per 100 over the last 50K, playing 200 NL.
I think this graph... Oh, sorry. Finish.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think this graph and the previous graph are really interesting to see kind of side by side, because one has a red line that goes straight up, one has a blue line that goes straight up instead. And, had I looked at these two graphs without knowing the players or anything about them, I would say, these guys are both crushers, but they're clearly playing different strategies, which is just not the case. And so, like...
Well, I think it is the case. Like, I think that... the truth is, like, poker's a big game. It has a really big game tree, and as I mentioned before in like the coaching sessions, there's room for nuance. There's room to do things a little bit differently. Yeah. And it's in those little differences that crazy things kind of occur. Like you could imagine that this wolf is probably pretty aggressive. Probably doesn't enjoy giving up on pots. And, this wolf is probably okay with giving up more pots on earlier decisions, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that, they are deploying the majority of the same strats. However, there's still room for nuance. There's still room for people to apply their
still room for your personality to shine through.
Right.
Shine through the strats. Right.
Their artistic expression, right? Let's see this one. This wolf is stealing all of the run good from the first wolf, winning at 8.9 big blinds per 100. And again, different looking graph than the last one, where their blue and green lines are going up. Their red line is breaking about even, but they're still winning at 8.9 big blinds per 100. So, and we have our. This data set's relatively small, 17K hands.
Yeah, but it's our full ring wolf.
Our full ringer, winning at 12.7 big blinds. So, again, it's too early to call because the data set, we need many more hands. But very proud of all these guys.
I think we got one more. No, we got this is my favorite one. I saved the best for last.
This one. Yeah.
Okay, so this is our no longer our newest wolf, but our second newest wolf. We'll call him JJ. So this is actually his graph. It includes results before he joined Wolves, and then the white arrow that goes down the middle of the graph is the point where he joined Wolves. And I mean, my God, is the juxtaposition.
Yeah, for the podcast listener, it looks like a V.
Yeah.
Pretty much looks like a V, and yeah, I mean, this is kind of the craziest graph of them all, and you can obviously tell like when something changed about their strategy.
Yeah.
But
clearly a huge strategic change. Why did we even accept this guy? Look at
oh man. JJ is, yeah, he's I don't want to say one of my favorites, but one of my favorites. He's gonna be in my opinion, he's gonna be a superstar.
Yeah.
And I think that the poker world will eventually know
JJ.
who he is, and we'll see him playing very high stakes on stream. Will likely be a CPG private coach. Will likely be in charge of helping to build out future iterations of the Wolf program. I think just insanely likable and smart, talented person who loves poker more than almost anybody that I know. You know, John, you love poker. He loves poker at least the same amount as you, which is, yeah, pretty wild to say.
This is his same guy's graph, JJ's graph, since he joined Wolves. Obviously a small sample of 10,000 hands, but
Yeah.
almost 24 BBs per 100, and like the red line is
Pretty good.
pretty good too. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We
Like you
need-
said though, not shocked to see this guy have these sorts of results, especially out the gate. This is what I expected from him.
Yeah, and we'll get a bigger data set, and we'll be able to share some stuff moving forward into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for the deck?
Just one last reminder on how to apply to Wolves. If after this little webinar or this little slide deck you're
It's
compelled
called a
to apply.
podcast, John.
Podcast,
You've been on like multiple of them
80
before, I
something.
think.
Yeah. Anyways, cpgwolves.com. The application will require you to submit a recent 50K hand sample, a short introduction video, and then some, personal information like name, age, what stakes you play, that kind of stuff. If you don't have a recent sample though, don't fear. You can still get into Wolves. I would say the easiest way to do it is probably just join Greatness Village, book a consult with Coach Shu for some private coaching. Probably within 1 or 2 sessions. If you're a really good poker player and Shu's impressed by your P&Es and thinks you have potential, then he'll probably just snap recommend you to apply to Wolves. And
We like talent.
Yeah,
We like passion. We like hard workers, and we like smart human beings.
Yeah.
So I mean, while the 50K hand data set is quite important,
I'm kind of envisioning someone who plays a lot of live. That's like, could be really good at poker, but doesn't play online. And like, we might be able to see that in like a play and explain or two, that like, oh yeah, this guy, knows what he's doing. He just doesn't have the sample to show it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's it. Apply.
That's
make money.
John's call to action. Apply, make money. No, I mean, yeah, my head's going down, and it's also been like a lower priority in trying to onboard a bunch of players, a lower priority in scaling, until I know where all the buttons are, the machine's whirring, everything's going as planned. So I don't know how many Wolves we're gonna onboard, how many people we're going to bring on in the near future, but that's the path to apply. And in the meantime, just listen to me and John on Tactical Tuesday, and we'll have another Wolf update at some point in the future.
Yeah, we'll try to make him less sporadic.
Yeah, John said that, not me. See you next time.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter at CPG Podcast.